Welcome to the study session where we are breaking down the BCBA 6th edition test content outline. Today we are diving into task B10, concurrent, multiple, mixed, and chained schedules of reinforcement.
This is still Domain B, Concepts and Principles, 24 questions, 14% of the exam. B10 builds directly on B9, so if you nailed simple schedules, you are already halfway there. But these complex schedules have their own exam traps you need to know.
Let's start with concurrent schedules. Concurrent means two or more schedules are available at the same time, and the learner can switch between them. Think of a child who can either play with toys or seek attention from a parent. Both options are available simultaneously.
Concurrent schedules connect directly to the matching law. Response allocation across options tends to match the relative rate of reinforcement. More reinforcement on one side means more responding on that side. The exam loves to pair B10 with B23 on the matching law.
Here is where the exam will try to trip you up. Concurrent schedules require a changeover delay, a brief pause required before reinforcement is available after switching options. Without it, the learner just bounces back and forth constantly. That detail shows up on exam questions.
Now let's talk multiple schedules. A multiple schedule has two or more component schedules presented in alternation, each signaled by a different discriminative stimulus. The key word is signaled. The learner knows which schedule is in effect because of an SD.
Think of a classroom where a green card means FR5 is in effect and a red card means extinction. The child behaves differently depending on which card is showing. That is a multiple schedule, same learner, different behavior, because the SD signals which contingency is active.
Mixed schedules look almost identical to multiple schedules, with one critical difference: no discriminative stimulus. The schedules alternate, but nothing signals which one is in effect. So the learner cannot tell. Behavior tends to be more uniform because there is no cue to respond to.
Here is the clinical application. Multiple schedules are useful for teaching discrimination, responding appropriately when reinforcement is available and not wasting effort when it is not. That is functional communication training in action, and it connects to your task list under G.6.
And ethics matters here too. If you run a multiple schedule with extinction as one component, you need to monitor for extinction bursts and emotional responding. BACB Code 2.15 requires you to minimize risk. Plan for it before you implement.
Now chained schedules, this is where verbal behavior connections get really interesting. A chained schedule has a series of links, each with its own SD and response requirement. Completing each link produces the SD for the next link, not the terminal reinforcer.
Think of making a cup of coffee. Getting the mug is the SD for adding water. Adding water is the SD for pressing brew. Pressing brew eventually produces the coffee, the terminal reinforcer. Each step in the chain is maintained by conditioned reinforcement from the next SD.
The exam will ask about forward versus backward chaining. Forward chaining teaches the first link first. Backward chaining teaches the last link first, the one closest to the terminal reinforcer, which makes every practice trial end in reinforcement. That is why backward chaining is often more efficient.
And total task chaining teaches every link every session from the start. Great for learners who already have most of the component skills. The exam distinguishes all three, so know when you would use each one. That connects directly to task list item G.12.
Let's connect this to verbal behavior. Intraverbal chains are a great example. When a child recites the alphabet, each letter serves as the SD for the next. The whole sequence is a verbal behavior chain maintained by the terminal reinforcer of completing it correctly.
Here is a summary for your study notes. Concurrent, two schedules available at once, learner chooses. Multiple, schedules alternate with an SD signaling each. Mixed, schedules alternate with no SD, no signal. Chained, a series of links, each producing the next SD, terminal reinforcer at the end.
The exam will give you scenarios and ask you to identify the schedule type. Watch for the SD. If there is one signaling components, it is multiple, not mixed. Watch for simultaneous availability, that is concurrent. Watch for sequential links leading to one final reinforcer, that is chained.
Master these distinctions and you are covering both B10 and laying the groundwork for experimental design questions in Domain D. These schedules are the framework behind some of the most clinically important ABA procedures we use every day.
One more thing on concurrent schedules in the clinic. When a client engages in problem behavior, they are often choosing it over an alternative because it gets reinforcement faster or more reliably. Understanding concurrent schedules helps you design a competing reinforcement arrangement that makes the alternative behavior win.
That is the core of functional communication training. You put a communication response on a richer schedule than the problem behavior. The client switches because the reinforcement rate is better. Concurrent schedules explain exactly why that works, and it connects everything back to your functional behavior assessment.
And for chain schedules, always remember that if a link in the chain breaks down, responding falls apart from that point forward. That is why task analysis and prompt fading are so important. Each link needs to be solid before the chain holds together under natural conditions.
These are not abstract concepts. Every toilet training program, every cooking skill sequence, every morning routine you build for a client, those are chain schedules in practice. Once you see it that way, the exam questions become intuitive and the clinical work makes more sense.
For more practice questions, visit www.bcbamockexam.com.
See ya.
Bye.